Creepy Battenberg.
My husband Dave always used to wear the same aftershave. It was pink in colour. It was, and still is, quite popular. He never wore much of it. It has a strong smell and you don't need a lot. This bottle would always stay on our bathroom windowsill. He had had it for a long time, and the heat generated by the sun left it discoloured and yellow. This didn't matter a great deal though, because even though it was discoloured it smelled exactly the same. With the job that my husband had, he often needed to work over in Manchester. On this particular trip, I was really quite worried about him. He had been very stressed lately, and he was tired, and this was a 3-hour journey on a good day. But he got there safe anyway. 2 days later, Dave called to say he was on his way home in 10 minutes. I had a lot of housework to do that day, and a little bit later on I was busy cleaning the bathroom. I started with the toilet, then I moved on to the sink and the bathtub, and once I had done this, I took all of the stuff off the windowsill. Hand lotion, perfume, a face mirror, and Dave's discoloured aftershave. The windowsill was covered in dust, so I dusted it down before spraying it with detergent and giving it a really good clean. I started to pick up the objects that belonged on the windowsill. As I was about to replace them, I noticed a patch of yellow liquid. This had me puzzled. I had really given the window a good clean. I touched it and then smelled my finger to see what it was. It was Dave's aftershave. It was roughly where it would stand on the windowsill, but I had cleaned every inch of it. My wonderment ceased as the house phone rang. I picked it up. It was Dave, and he sounded distressed. He told me that he had nearly been in a crash on the motorway. He had dozed off at the wheel for a moment, waking up to see the tip of his bonnet underneath a truck. He panicked at first, but regained composure and pulled off at the next junction. He said he was going to rest before setting off again. It was then that I told him about the patch of aftershave on the windowsill. It would have been around the same time he almost had the accident. We both believed that he sent me some sort of psychic message at this very time that his life was in danger. It was the middle of the night. I was dreaming that I was with my friend Cassie at the beach when I got a message saying, "The Babysitter!" Exclamation mark. As I read it, I had a feeling of intense fear and dread. The dream itself actually doesn't really have any significance to what I'm about to tell you, but it was enough to wake me up. I found that I was having difficulty breathing. I was gasping for air and I couldn't move. It was awful. Each breath seemed more difficult than the last. It was like I was breathing sand. I felt a weight in the bed next to me, and then someone put their hand over mine. I assumed it was my mum, who had come to comfort me. After what felt like ages, I started to breathe normally and could move again. I turned expecting to see my mother there, only to find there was no one. It took me a few hours to get to sleep again, as I was a bit frightened to go back over after that. I put it down to a bad dream or maybe sleep paralysis. I didn't think anything of it until the day after, because in the morning I got the shock of my life when I heard that my very good friend Peter had passed away. What's more than that, due to the circumstances of his death, he would have experienced the same symptoms I had upon waking up through the night. I would also later find out that the time of his death would have been about the time that I woke up and couldn't breathe. Did my friend try and reach out to me in his moment of death? I would like to think he was saying goodbye to me, and hopefully goodbye is not forever. I was in London visiting friends when I had an overbearing feeling of sadness. I had just gotten off the tube at Camden Town and was walking to meet my friend at a cafe. The feeling just seemed to increase with each step I took. My muscles all felt tired and sore. It was really beginning to take physical effort to keep moving. My boots felt like they were full of cement. The thought that something was actually physically wrong never actually crossed my mind. I knew what I was feeling was on an emotional level. It started to feel like someone had their hands on my shoulders and were pushing down on them. This feeling then increased to the feeling of somebody actually sitting on my shoulders. By this point, I realised I was actually crying. I sat down on the edge of the pavement, not really caring what anyone thought. I didn't know what was wrong. I just knew that I had to ring my father. I felt like I barely had the strength to make the call, but I managed in the end. My father's girlfriend answered. She told me that he could not get to the phone at that moment, as he was busy on another line, and that he would ring back very shortly. I was really quite insistent that I wanted to talk to him, but again she said that he was busy and he would ring me back. I hung up and waited for him to call back, and it didn't take long before it actually rang. I answered to my father. He told me that he'd had some bad news. He said that my grandfather had taken a turn for the worse, and he had died the night before. As soon as he had given me this news, I could literally feel the weight lift from my shoulders, and after I had finished speaking with him, I was actually fine to go back about my business. I must have been feeling my dad's sadness and his frustration at not yet being able to reach me. I just couldn't believe how quickly the feeling disappeared. I think that my empathic nature leaves me susceptible to picking up other people's feelings, especially those who are nearest and dearest. Hello everyone, this is Creepy here, and I really hope that you've enjoyed episode 2. I'm really looking forward to episode 3, which will be out on Friday. We've got some really ripping ghost stories to get through in the coming weeks. If you are enjoying the series so far, and you want to hear more, don't forget to subscribe. And if you have a story for me, send me an email at marzipanhorror23@gmail.com. And if you do have something for me, well, that would be as sweet as marzipan. Until then, I'm Creepy Battenberg. Good night.